All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Military History Chronicles here on a Saturday night. Hope all of y'all are having a great night. I see Adi, I see Cryptic Trader. I'm sure there's a few others out there that haven't said anything yet. Welcome. Appreciate the support, guys. Talk a little bit more of a Civil War. Imagine that. Imagine that. Some Civil War stuff. Someone, I think Cryptic, it may have been you. Were you the one that wanted to talk about some Navy history during the Civil War? I think that's what you said. I think it was you. I'm trying to remember. I'm almost positive it's you. I could be wrong, but I remember someone talking about that. There was also, I think, Arrow, who comes into our chat often. He talked about doing the Peloponnesian War. Yeah. See, it was Cryptic. That's what I thought. Look at that. Sometimes I remember stuff. But yeah, I think Arrow talked about doing the Peloponnesian War. That one's going to take some reading on that one. We're going back into ancient times for that one. Man. But yeah, but it's fantastic. Same thing with the Punic Wars. That's another great one. Oh, you know, when you got Hannibal marching across Europe and freaking elephants, and oh man, that's pretty impressive. But that's something we could get into another. That's gonna, again, like I said, that's gonna take some studying. But we're gonna stick with the Civil War, and then of course we're gonna segue into a little bit of the current events, specifically what's going on in the Russian-Ukrainian war. There is significant things that are happening over in that region. Significant things, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about it. Anyways, today. The topic is going to be Admiral David G. Farragut. We'll get into a little bit of his early history there, but there's two things that he's famous for. The Battle of New Orleans and the Battle of Mobile Bay, where he uttered the famous lines, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." The guy was an old school leader, man. And we'll get into a little bit here on what he did. We'll get into a brief history. If you guys want to check out what I suggest is, if you guys want to know a lot about Civil War, Revolutionary War, and War of 1812, check these guys out. American Battlefield Trust. Fantastic organization. You can learn a lot. They have a great YouTube channel. You can follow them on Twitter at Battlefields. Great information, guys. Great information.
And anyway, if you got a few extra coins in your pocket and looking for some good karma, please donate to them.
Yeah, because what they do is their mission is saving American battlefields, specifically from those wars that I just mentioned. A lot of them are under threat of development, and I think it's important that we preserve some of these battlefields that especially make up our early history. You know, if it wasn't for some of these battles, you know, it was. I mean, it tells the history of the nation. Basically, that's what it does. And you don't want to put a shopping mall over the top of a battlefield. I mean, come on, seriously,
geez, dude.
Would you want to see a housing complex built on the grounds of Gettysburg? I mean, it's just.
I would haunt the hell out of that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. Anyway, let's get into this, guys. Let's get into this. David Glasgow, Farragut's father, Jorge, was a Spanish merchant captain who had served in the American Revolution and the War of 1812. So he has a little bit of history of family history of fighting on the side of the United States in the American Revolution.
And that's not something you really see a whole hell of a lot of. Early Spanish ancestry like that. Yeah. That's very cool.
Yep. As a young man, Farragut was sent away from his birthplace in Tennessee to live with Captain David Porter in Virginia to learn a trade. We're going to come back to that name here shortly. Well, not David, but I guess I think his name was also Dave. Or yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's different. It's weird how it goes. In 1812, he traded his original first name, James, to David in honor of his adoptive father. This adoption made David Farragut the foster brother of another famous Civil War admiral, David Dixon Porter. Okay, we talked about Porter briefly briefly on the Battle of Vicksburg. He was the key Navy admiral that had the Brown Water Navy to be able to sail past Vicksburg and also put a punishment out. He was also used to put a punishment on Forts Henry and Donaldson as well.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for him, Grant wouldn't have been able to successfully accomplish the Vicksburg campaign. He had his ironclads going down the river, which was fantastic. That was a whole new invention during that time. One of many inventions that occurred during the Civil War.
Oh my God.
Those ironclads, you know, they're putting metal on top of ships instead of your big giant sail. So it was definitely a little bit different in how they constructed the flotillas for river battle. All right, here we go. Farragut began his life as a sailor early. He commanded a prize ship captured in the War of 1812 when he was only 12 years old. For those of you who don't know what a prize ship is, basically, if you captured an enemy ship, that is considered a prize. And there was actually prize courts. Have you ever heard of that? I called you Glenn. Did you ever hear about that, Will? Where if you captured enemy...
One turned Asian all of a sudden.
When you captured enemy vessels, anything on that vessel, to include the ship, went to a prize court, and people got awarded, you know, the booty of whatever was on that ship and the ship itself. He was able to actually get the ship at 12 years old, man.
Could you imagine
being a captain of a ship at the age of 12, man?
And here you are surrendering to some 12-year-old, like, all right, you got me, dude.
Unbelievable. And look at this. He joined the Navy in December of 1810. And by the time of the Civil War, Farragut had proven his ability repeatedly. Despite the fact that he was born and raised in the South, Farragut chose to side with the Union. In April 1862, while commander of the West Gulf Blocking Squadron, Flag Officer Farragut took the city and port of New Orleans. We'll get into that here shortly. As a reward, the Union created the new rank of Rear Admiral.
Very first admiral.
Exactly. In July 1862, he passed the batteries defending Vicksburg, but was unsuccessful there and was forced to withdraw his flotilla. In 1863, Farragut seriously bungled his role at the siege of Port Hudson. Initially, the Union plan was for Nathaniel Banks' Army of the Gulf to create a diversion while Farragut's flotilla passed the Confederate guns. However, instead of beginning his run on the morning of March 15th, Farragut decided to begin on the evening of March 14th. The Confederate guns forced Farragut's flotilla to retreat with heavy damage. General Banks had no other option but to continue the siege without the help of the Navy. Both branches suffered a tremendous casualty rate. But you know what? Before we get in, I don't want to get into this too much because we're going to actually get into the history. Matter of fact, let's get into the first one that he's really famous for. We'll talk about a
Mobile.
Well, actually, the first one was the Battle of New Orleans. That was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
This was
the
key.
reason why they captured New Orleans.
Yeah, here we go. Look at that guy. There we are. Here we go. I kind of know this, but I'll just read it to you guys. They do such a much better job reading it or typing it out. I'll just read from it. Again, American
coffee.
Battlefield Trust. New Orleans' role in the Civil War was perhaps as unique as the city itself. The largest city in the South at the time of the war, New Orleans provided thousands of troops and supplies to the Confederate cause. The city's location at the mouth of the Mississippi made it a strategic port for both the Union and Confederate militaries. Remember, I'm going to go to Golf Strip. At that time of when they took New Orleans, talking about the Union, the Confederate was still in charge of Port Hudson and Vicksburg. Those two, with the Confederate controlling those 2 points on the Mississippi, the Union did not have free navigation in the Mississippi River, which was very important. Again, I talked about this during Vicksburg. A lot of the northern states required that river to get their goods to market. Has there ever been a female? We'll get into that later, Steve-O. We'll get into that later. So one of the first things that the Union was going to have to do was to take control of the Mississippi River one of the first things that happened. What's up, Ron Raquel? How's it going, man? You had to take the mouth of the Mississippi River, which is New Orleans. Another important thing with New Orleans, and they might talk about it here. They might talk about it. I might be getting ahead of myself. It was a huge area where the Confederates can still be supplied with all the supplies needed to wage war against the Union.
That was hot.
Yeah, and additionally, it was a huge port for where slaves were coming in. So, New Orleans was a strategic port for the Confederacy, and the Union wanted to take New Orleans for that simple fact. Where if you stop New Orleans from being in Confederate control, it puts a huge damper on what the Confederacy could do as far as supplies are concerned. All right, let's get more into this here. I was over here. During the antebellum years, antebellum again is pre-Civil War, New Orleans grew rapidly to be one of the liveliest cities in the nation. Much of the city's wealth derived from the slave trade. At its peak, New Orleans housed more than 50 slave markets. Some of the 750,000 enslaved people were forcibly shipped to New Orleans, generating tens of millions of dollars for the New Orleans economy while changing the city's social and political fabric. In addition to slaves, more than half of all the cotton growth in the United States passed through New Orleans. Tobacco and sugar followed closely behind as top exports. By 1860, New Orleans embodied the image of the Deep South. Again, cotton and the slave trade. On January 22nd, 1861, Louisiana voted to secede from the Union. 7 days later, on January 29th, the secession convention convened in New Orleans, decided that all federal employees could lawfully remain at their posts, but were now branded employees of the state. Soon after, the New Orleans Mint began producing Confederate currency, and the fledgling Confederate Navy used the city as an ordnance depot. New Orleans shipbuilders began producing warships, including an early ironclad known as the CSS Manassas, and two early submarines, the Bayou St. John and the Pioneer. As war fever gripped the city, thousands of men and boys volunteered for service. The Washington Artillery, a pre-war militia unit that served in both the eastern and western theaters of the Civil War, hailed from New Orleans, as did prominent Confederate officers P.G.T. Beauregard and Braxton Bragg, Albert Gallatin Blanchard, and Harry T. Hayes, many of the famed Louisiana Tigers Infantry Brigade, also called New Orleans home. Judah P. Benjamin, another son of New Orleans, served as a Confederate Attorney General, Secretary of War, and eventually Secretary of State. And that is a photo of David Farragut. From the start of the war, the Union High Command targeted New Orleans as a means of denying the Confederacy as one of its most important ports. In January 1862, Captain David Farragut assumed command of the West Gulf Blocking Squadron and assembled his ships along the Gulf Coast and lower Mississippi River, where two brick fortifications, Fort Jackson and Fort St. Philip, ominously guarded the approach to New Orleans. It's a different Fort Jackson. Farragut, reinforced by 19 smaller vessels and a flotilla of 20 mortar boats under the commander, David Dixon Porter, again, his brother, ordered an extensive reconnaissance of the Confederate fortifications. Here, let me stop sharing that here. Let's bring up a map what we're talking about here.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so what was happening here in the Civil War? Old Fuss and Feathers, Wilfred Hancock, one of his first, what do you want to call it? I guess his only strategy that he wanted to employ against the Confederacy was what they deemed, or what they the nickname they gave it was Operation Anaconda. In other words, they wanted to strangle the South, and how they were going to do that is they were going to blockade the entire Confederacy seacoast,
shut down their economy.
Shut down their economy, and of course, eventually take control of the Mississippi. So if you could take control of the Mississippi and you blockade ships from being able to leave or come into the Confederacy, you put a stranglehold. In other words, you're squeezing the Confederacy. As you could see, New Orleans, as they were talking about, was one of the major ports in the Confederacy. So Farragut was part of the blocking brigade. That's why they call it the blocking squadron, is because that was their task, was to block this region of the Confederacy. Again, to prevent what they called, oh dear gosh, what were they? Blockade runners.
Blockade runners, yeah.
What's up, Chillax? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. So when the blockade runners, in other words, they would try to get past the pickets of Union ships by either usually going in the middle of night with no lights, and their version of speedboats. You remember Blue Water Navy during that time, yeah, they still had some steam, but a lot of it was the big giant sails, kind of like the old school sailing ships that you would see.
Mm-hmm.
So the boats that the Confederacy had, they had some pretty interesting boats. There's some stories about their blockade running ability.
This was also happening around the same time that the Confederacy was also in talks with our old friends, Great Britain.
Yes, matter of fact, bring up the map. This is where the blockade runners would go.
Mm-hmm.
They go in this region here, offload their cotton, and usually their cotton, and then the French and the British would supply them with weapons or whatever other type of goods that the Confederacy may need. So yeah, it was interesting how that worked out. Now, it didn't work out very, very long for the simple fact. Well, that's a story for another day. You're going to get me all going.
Oh yeah. My bad.
As far
it
as,
was all
good.
part of this dynamic and the blockade running and whatnot. So I brought it up.
Yeah, no, 100%. Did they have ships of the line? Ships of the line. Yeah, it's kind of like that. That's kind of what they did, except it wasn't really ships of the line for the simple fact because they were blockading. They weren't fighting additional armies. So ships of the line was a little bit different because that tactic wasn't being used because the Union wasn't facing, quote unquote, a Confederate Navy.
Right.
The only thing the Confederate had as, quote unquote, a Navy was they had some ironclads,
riverboats,
and that's it. That's pretty much what they had. And blockade runners. That's all they had. So again, David Farragut, his job was to be part of that blocking. Where are we at here? Back to Battle of New Orleans. Here we go. Fort Jackson, Fort St. Philip boasted heavily rifled and smoothbore cannon that looked across the river and its surrounding land. Around the fort stood additional auxiliary fortifications, while a defensive chain or a boom stretched across the river between the forts to prevent passage of enemy ships. As the enemy vessel struggled to break the chain, Confederate forces in the two forts could concentrate a destructive fire upon the victims. 3 Confederate ironclads, 2 traditional warships, and several unarmed support crafts stood in defense as well. In addition to 6 cotton-clad rams of the River Defense Fleet reinforced the Confederate Navy. You know what the cotton-clad rams did? If I'm not mistaken, cotton-clad rams. They would light the cotton bales on fire, ram the ships, poof, catch on fire. What's up, cool. Benji?
They were using the same tactic that's been used since the Greeks and
the Greek fire,
the Roman days. Well, not just with the tactics with the cotton, but the chains,
the ramming,
the ramming and the chains itself, chaining the boats together to block the blockaders. Yeah, that's an old tactic.
See, I don't know exactly where they would be, but yeah, I don't know where these forts would have actually. I bet you I'm trying to see if there's any historical of where these forts. They're probably long gone because that whole region has changed because of the Mississippi and all. But yeah, man, I don't even know. I'm guessing it's going to be an entrance somewhere around here. Anyways, let me get back to the story here. April 16th. 1862, Farragut ordered the Union fleet into position below the forts. 2 days later, on April 18th, the mortar boats opened a destructive fire on the Confederate positions. While Fort Jackson sustained heavy damage during this barrage, both forts stood even after a second bombardment on April 19th. The chain between the two forts proved a challenging obstacle to the United States Navy. Farragut ordered several gunboats to travel up the river under the cover of darkness to destroy the barrier, but the ships quickly fell into the trap. In the meantime, Farragut continued his bombardment of the fort. So what happened is, and you have a chain, all right? Basically, your ships can't cross the chain. You're limiting their ability to maneuver. So you just can't sail right in. So when you're hung up in the chain, what do you think's happening? Those forts are just bombarding any of the ships that are trying to get through that chain.
So basically, what's happening here is at the mouth of the Mississippi, just above New Orleans, there's two forts. There's Fort Jackson on the south side, and there was Fort Phillip on the other side. And they both had batteries on them. And within that, they had that big, long chain like Eric's talking about. So they would get caught in that chain, and they get bombarded by mortars and cannonball fire and whatnot.
Now, you got to think about this. Could you imagine? I just want you guys to kind of picture this. Look, we're not talking about, you see footage of modern combat. Okay. This is totally different, guys.
Oh, man.
This is cannonballs.
Ancient.
Yeah. This is cannonballs and mortars. And now, okay. When we talk about mortars, excuse me.
You good?
Civil War mortars were no joke. Big giant things, man. I mean, basically it's okay. With a cannon, it's more of a direct fire, right? Yeah, you can arc it and such. But with a mortar, you're sending a cannonball straight up, kind of like modern day mortars, and then they just fall down on top of you and kaboom. But yes, exactly, Benji. Imagine you're sitting on a boat. You're on a Union boat. You're trying to get through the mouth of the Mississippi. You got this chain in front of you. You got two forts firing cannonballs at you. In the meantime, your support is also firing cannon back at you. Black powder and smoke is everywhere.
Can't see nothing.
Can you imagine the din of noise that is occurring during this? So you're trying to concentrate and breaking that chain. At the same time, you're taking all this crazy fire.
And there's splinters flying around in the air.
Exactly. You got molten metal flying everywhere, pieces of wood flying everywhere. In the meantime, you're trying to get through this. I mean, think about this, guys. And this is in the middle of the night as well. So it's a little bit different than it is today. Don't get me wrong. Warfare is warfare. But just kind of put yourself in what that must have been like.
Oh, my God.
In that type of situation. That's why, man, it's just like when it's similar to when you have your line, when they form their lines of combat. I mean, you're talking what, maybe 100 yards face to face, and you're just unloading with musketry. I mean, come on. It's just it was different back then. Mm-hmm. And there's really no way the best way you can explain it is just by using words. But can you just imagine the smells, the sounds, and what you must have been feeling going through something like that? I mean, whew.
Oh, just imagine you're sitting there at the battery level of a ship, which is where the cannonballs are going to be landing, because that's what the other ships are aiming at too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there you are, and right around you, you're hearing all this chaos, all the careening off the cannonballs, your friends getting their arms lopped off and screaming in pain. Oh man, that's a whole different.
I know, man. And you got to remember, this is a little bit different. When you got hit, there was no medic right there.
No, they had no corpsman back then, man.
They had
a ship doctor, but that's about it. There's only one dude.
Exactly. Their version of first aid was rudimentary at best. I mean, I just couldn't imagine what it was like. Tom says, did Mare Island? No, not at all. I don't think Mare Island even became "quote unquote" Mare Island until way after the Civil
I got
War.
A cool story that involves Mare Island we could save a little bit later on.
All right, cool. All right, let's get back into this. Yes, Alex Peterson. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. We're getting to that, but it's not during the Battle of New Orleans. It's the next battle that we're going to get into. April 23rd, Union gunboats Panola and Ithaca finally opened up a gap in the chain at 2 a.m. on April 24th. The fleet advanced onto Confederate positions, with Farragut leading in a corvette, the Hartford. Union ships engaged the enemy fortifications and ironclads in close combat. All ships of the Union fleet, except the mortar vessels, forced their way past and steamed upriver past the final Confederate fortifications. At noon on April 25th, Farragut anchored his vessels in front of New Orleans. Fort Jackson, Fort St. Philip, isolated from the city, received a continuous bombardment from Union fleet and surrendered on April 28th. Federal infantry entered New Orleans soon after without further Confederate resistance. In Confederate hands for only 455 days, New Orleans was the first major Confederate city captured. However, the citizens of New Orleans resisted Union occupation nonetheless. Yeah, this guy, don't mention Benjamin Butler when you go to New Orleans. He's got a bad name. The federal commander, Major General Benjamin Butler, quickly imposed martial law over the city and ruled with an iron fist. He demanded oaths of allegiance, confiscated weapons, and devised a relief plan for the poor, and jailed a large number of uncooperative citizens. Butler also ordered the inscription, "The Union must and shall be preserved," to be added to the base of the equestrian statue of General Andrew Jackson in Jackson Square.
Hardcore, man.
Yeah, he didn't mess up. He didn't mess around. Butler did not mess around. He wasn't a very good general, but when it came to this kind of stuff, he was okay. The population of New Orleans, already enraged, became even more so when they learned of Butler's seizure of 800,000 of deposited in the office of the Dutch consul. Perhaps the most flagrant was Butler's. Again, we're getting a little bit off track, but it's part of the Battle of New Orleans. General Order Number 28, which held that any woman who insulted or showed contempt of any federal officer or soldier would be regarded and treated as a common prostitute. The order provoked protests and outrage in the North and the South, as well as abroad, particularly in France and England. In June 1862, Butler again met controversy when he ordered the hanging of William Munford, a Confederate sympathizer who tore down a U.S. flag over the New Orleans Mint. For his infamy, Confederate sympathizers nicknamed him the Beast, or Spoons Butler, for the silverware looted by some Union troops, though no evidence exists that proves that Butler was personally involved in such activity. There he is. That's Butler.
Look at this guy. Holy smoke!
He looks like a character, don't he? He's a character.
This would be someone you'd drink and have a poker game with for sure. Like,
oh my gosh. Anyways, that's
this guy's enough. Awesome.
But again, Farragut played an instrumental part in capturing the city of New Orleans. Again, it was vital to capture that city if you want to, quote unquote, squeeze the Confederacy into submission. All right, what do you got here? Just taking a look. Don't think you know your MI history.
Mare Island.
Oh.
Well, they were kind of holding down at that time. They were kind of holding down the Russians in the north who were trapping a bunch of fur trading and whatnot. I remember, if I remember correctly, they did have a contingent of Russians go to the port, actually go to Mare Island itself.
Interesting.
And were met by, I believe, the Secretary of the Navy that was actually meeting them.
When I'm talking about Civil War, I'm talking about
like direct action kind of stuff. Yeah,
I'm not talking about the stuff that's happening out, because in California, come on, there really wasn't much going on. Matter of fact,
no, and most of the action
they raised a couple of regiments, I think, but they played no significant role. They played no significant role.
Most of the action, the furthest west most action saw was actually here in Arizona. They actually had a few battles out here, but and not even that was anything major. Didn't bear any relevance to the whole grand scheme.
Farragut did play a part in the Battle of Vicksburg. He tried to send those large ships, the quote unquote blue water Navy ships.
They were bottoming out.
Oh, dude, it was bad. And they couldn't turn very well, because you know the Mississippi. I mean, you got hairpin turns and trying to navigate. Now, he got up to Vicksburg. They were able to shell Vicksburg, but there is no way they can to take the city, just for the simple fact they just didn't have the means to be able to do that.
Real quick, I can hear it in my headphones, but are you guys hearing my damn air conditioner?
I don't hear it.
Okay, cool. All right.
I hear nothing.
Make sure you guys aren't hearing that.
No,
right
dude,
there.
You're talking about a guy whose hearing is bad.
Well, mine is too. I told you the story of that.
Yeah. But again, he was playing a part into the the Vicksburg campaign. Now,
thanks, Benji.
What's up, man? he didn't play a significant part. Again, the Vicksburg campaign involved a whole bunch of different things. It took months because it started basically in the winter of 1862 and it didn't finish until the summer of 1863. So there was a lot of moving parts in the Battle of Vicksburg, but he did play an early part in that.
Oh, I like Alex. Alex knows his stuff, man.
Alex knows his stuff. 4 or 5 times. It's funny. There's an awesome quote. I can't remember how it went. A Union soldier was captured by the Confederates in Vicksburg, and I can't remember what it was. And they were questioning him, and he basically said, "Man, Grant has got about 100 plans in his pocket," or something like that. That's one thing that Grant. He was tenacious.
Right.
He had determination. He understood what he needed to do, and he threw everything against the wall to try to get into Vicksburg.
And through that,
it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for the simple fact of the topography of Vicksburg.
I think his best quality too, Grant's quality as a overall leader, is he also knew the strength in his subordinates.
Oh yeah, he leaned heavily on them,
and he used them to a T. I mean, yeah. I think for
but he
anybody, 100%. I think for anybody in the military, if you were to kind of look at someone for leadership value, Grant is probably right there at the top. How you should run a unit, especially when you're a senior NCO or hell, even a junior NCO leading just a fire team of troops.
I mean, seriously, I told you about that in the Vicksburg campaign. He tried to come down the east, but his supply chain was too long. Nathan Bedford Forrest was able to sever it. He couldn't commence with it. He tried to attack the bluffs in the north part of Vicksburg with Sherman. That didn't work. He tried to use the Yazoo Pass. That didn't work. Again, trying to go through the swamps. He did that a couple of times where he tried to go through some different paths to try to get to the north of Vicksburg. They tried, even before Grant showed up, General Banks tried to dig a canal across that little peninsula.
It didn't work out very well.
There's that little peninsula. They tried to get a canal dug through it. They used slave labor to do that. Horrific. I mean, it was bad. A lot of people died doing that for the simple all the diseases and everything. That failed. But again, that was before Grant. But I mean, there were so many things. And finally, he was able to go to the east side of the Mississippi, or I should say the west side of Mississippi, was able to find a road to get below Vicksburg, got down to a place called Hard Times, found out that was a little bit too tough to cross. Then he went down to Bruinsburg. Hard Times, exactly. Chickasaw Bayou, exactly. It was a disaster, dude. A disaster. And the Yazoo Pass was another one as well. Chickasaw Bayou, Yazoo Pass, you name it, man. There was a whole, he had so many different plans to try to get to Vicksburg. But then he was able to cross the Mississippi at Bruinsburg, and then he was able to get onto the east side of the river. That's when he was able to get his divisions to march up to Jackson and then head west into Vicksburg. But again, that was Battle of Vicksburg. Let's get back to Admiral Farragut. All right, his next battle here. Here we go. The battle. Ooh, that's actually a map. I'm not going to get into the map yet. Here we go. Here we go. August 2nd to August 23rd of 1864. Okay. In the early fall of 1864, Admiral, he's not a captain no more. Remember, in the Battle of New Orleans, he was only a captain. After that, he became a rear admiral. Fleet attacked one of the last open Confederate ports. After one of his ships hit a torpedo in the bay. Oh, no, I'm not going to get into that. What the heck? That's not the one.
Yeah.
Here we go.
There we go.
Mobile Bay had 2 main ship channels defended by 3 forts. The largest, Fort Morgan, a 46-gun starship fortification built in 1834, protected the deepest channel from its eastern side. On the west side of the channel was a smaller and newer Fort Gaines, provided covering fire with 26 guns on Dauphin Island. And Fort Powell guarded Grant's Pass at the western entrance of Mobile Bay with 16 guns. The Confederates blocked part of the main channel with torpedoes. Again, what are they? Floating wood barrels with explosives, like modern naval mines. Basically, they were mines.
Yeah, they weren't
supplement
like
these. Yeah, exactly. When you think of torpedoes, don't think of what today's torpedoes are. Back then, anything that was a mine was considered a torpedo. Even the Army, when they came across mines, they called them torpedoes. Accordingly, they assembled a small flotilla consisting of ironclad CSS Tennessee and 3 gunboats inside the bay. They were commanded by the veteran Admiral Franklin Buchanan, who led the ironclad CSS Virginia at the Battle of Hampton Roads 2 years earlier. Okay, guys, you guys remember that was the first time the 2 ironclads faced? Remember that? You had the USS Monitor, and then you had the CSS Virginia. Or remember the Merrimack and the Monitor? That's the famous battle that happened over in Virginia. And that's where the Virginia, it put a shellacking on some of those Navy boats. But the next day is when the Monitor showed up, and it was able to successfully disable the Virginia, and they wind up having to scuttle that ship eventually. Pemberton was definitely an underrated. I wouldn't say he was underrated. He was in over his head as a Confederate general. Anyways, Pemberton was in over his head, dude.
He was getting, and it didn't help that his leadership really
it was all
crap the bed there. It was all ego based, and his orders
you had two different lines of communication, or different chains of command. You had the president saying hold Vicksburg at all costs. You had Joseph E. Johnson, who was the general in charge of that region, saying vacate Vicksburg and meet up with me. So what's he going to do? Of course, he's going to side with President Davis. Exactly. I mean, it's his reputation is on the line at that point. Yeah. Anyways, let's get back to this. Boom.
Pretty cool stuff, Alex. Appreciate the comment.
Rear Admiral David Farragut received the assignment of capturing Mobile. Responsible for leading an army assault in conjunction with Farragut's attack was Major General Gordon Granger with about 1,500. That was a Confederate general, or not a Confederate, cavalry general. Granger was a cavalry. It was supposed to be in coordination. The Navy was supposed to come in, and then the Confederate was supposed to come in and take Mobile Bay. All right, what do we got? Granger landed on Dolphin Island on August 3rd and laid siege to Fort Gaines, while Farragut assembled his fleet on 4 ironclad monitors, more than a dozen wooden ships. Finally, on August 5th, 1864, the Federal fleet passed into the harbor.
Hey-o.
Farragut split his ships into 2 parallel columns, the ironclad sailing nearest Fort Morgan and the wooden ships on the far side. Farragut ordered the larger wooden ships lashed together to the smaller ship so that the bigger vessels could serve as shields, so that the ships could be allowed to tow each other if one became disabled. Pretty smart.
That's badass.
Farragut personally observed much of the battle while lashed to the rigging of his flagship, the USS Hartford. The ship steamed through the narrow width of the channel that had not been mined while passing under the fort's guns. Again, you can imagine what that must have been like. But as the columns maneuvered, the ships found themselves drifting into the edge of the minefield. The ironclad USS Tecumseh struck a torpedo and sank almost immediately. I think almost the whole crew was lost.
Yeah.
The cautious Union captains began stopping their ships while within range of Fort Morgan. Not a good idea. At this juncture, here we go. Farragut ordered the Hartford forward with the famous line, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." Although facing bombardment from the forts and the Confederate ships, Hartford made it through the minefield in one piece, with the rest of the fleet following its wake. Once into the expansive bay, the fleet could quickly move out of range of Fort Morgan's guns, leaving only the Confederate ships to contend with. The Federals promptly captured or drove away the rebel gunboats Selma, Gaines, and Morgan. Still, despite the overwhelming odds, the CSS Tennessee, Buchanan's flagship, moved forward to meet the Northerners. Buchanan was soon surrounded by Union ironclads as he steered for the Hartford, but the CSS Tennessee's armor plating protected her as she was rammed and pounded with shot. Could you imagine being in a
I was about to say the same thing before you even started this.
You're in this iron freaking contraption. Could you imagine the sounds of the cannonball hitting the
yeah, like a big giant bell or something.
So you got this thing banging away, and then you got the outgoing. You're getting rammed. Oh my God. Could you imagine?
Hey, and then don't forget Farragut. Actually, I believe he was either in the mast or the bowsprit when he gave that line.
Yeah, he was lashed to it. In other words, he was
lashed
tied.
to it, and he was hanging on, and he yelled out the famous "damn it torpedoes."
Yeah. He didn't mess around, dude.
He was a badass, man.
Leaders led from a different way back. It was just different. You led from the front. That's just the way it was. Today, a little bit different. I can understand that. You don't want people who have the brains, I guess, if you will. I mean, you got people below you that can do that job today. But back then, it was just different. You just led from the front. That's what you did, man. And many a good leaders fell because they led from the front. It was just a different time. Time, man.
In fact, Alex just named one in the chat, one who led from the front and was killed.
Oh, Nelson?
Admiral Nelson.
Battle of Trafalgar. That was something else. As a matter of fact, I think that uniform is on display somewhere. You could actually see the round where it went through him. But but that was a little bit different then, because not only were you pounding each other with cannon, you would board other guys' ships to take it over. They had the Marines would actually you get to the enemy ship, you freaking throw out freaking grapple hooks and shit, and you're fighting guys. Oh man, you want to talk about it was different.
Oh man, dude, we weren't made for that. That's for sure. Different time and age.
The ship's weak engine, talking about the Tennessee, was a product of the Confederacy's limited industrial capacity.
Hey-o.
It's kind of like the basis of the paper I did for my master's thesis. Made her too slow to outmaneuver her adversaries and prevented her from successfully ramming any Union ships. Instead, the ships fought at close quarters. Tennessee slid along Hartford's side at arm's length as her crews fired their guns at point-blank range. Ooh. Eventually, Tennessee's slow engine, bad gunpowder, and fewer guns took their toll. Buchanan was injured, and the ship's rudder chains were shot away, preventing her from steering and allowing the Federals to pummel the ironclad. 3 hours after the fighting had started, the CSS Tennessee surrendered, leaving the bay in Union control and closing the port to Southern blockade runners. All right, guys, there's an aftermath to this. But before I get into that aftermath, let's show some pictures of what they're talking about here. It's pretty awesome. Here you go. When they were talking about the different entrances into Mobile Bay, here you go. This is the southern. Over here, when they talked about the western approach into Mobile Bay, of course, this is Mobile Bay up all in here. Fort Morgan, this is the one that had the most amount of guns. These are where the torpedoes were. As you can see, there was just a small channel that the Union can navigate through. And then, of course, there was other obstructions. Fort Gaines was sitting over there. And then the smallest fort was over here, Fort Powell. As you can see, they did a great job. Again, this is all credit to American Battlefield Trust, man. Again, go check them out. They're fantastic. You got the larger wooden ships here on the eastern side of the channel. The ironclads on the other side, again, it will help protect them from the onslaught of Fort Morgan. This is where the Tecumseh hit the torpedo. It sank immediately, but they were able to continue on up into the bay. And then you could see how the Battle of the Tennessee and the Hartford, I guess, took place. And then could you imagine that for 3 hours straight?
Just sitting there. Just
3 hours straight?
Man. I mean,
come on, man.
Dude, those guys were hearing ghosts afterwards for a whole year, dude.
Oh my God, dude. Could you imagine?
They probably hear a freaking pan at the floor and crap their pants.
Exactly. And check out the names of some of these ships. The Metacomet, Port Royal, the Kennebec, the Ithaca.
Isn't that cool, man? Well, these are all Native American names. Some Seminole.
Mississippi, Mongol, I can't even say that. The Seminole, the Lackawanna, the Richmond. That's a little
Otara.
Tecumseh.
Definitely
that was,
Native American.
Again, William Tecumseh Sherman was named after a famous Indian, or I should say Native American. I'm sorry. Chickasaw, Winnebago.
There's a debate on that, though. Actually, calling them Indians means people of God. That's actually a better term. But anyways,
whatever.
I there just yet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna look.
Yeah. We're good. We're good.
But anyways, this is how it this is how it transpired. Again, this is about the spot where Farragut uttered that famous line, "Damn the torpedoes." Full spill of it. With adrenaline for 3
that's
hours.
exactly it, Alex. Yes. Yeah, you're right. Time
That's
dilation. We've all had adrenaline pumping through our veins. So think about, for example, maybe you were never in the military, but I think a lot of us have ridden a roller coaster, right? The roller coaster ride maybe it only lasts about 45 seconds. That's all it is, really, right? But to you, when you're on that damn thing, going through all those loops and whatnot, it might as well be 5 minutes, Oh man, 3 hours of just getting dinged on by, oh man, getting that bell rung, that iron and whatnot. Jeez. But the fact of the matter is they didn't even sink it, until.
Okay, guys, I'm going to read you a passage here from
James there we go.
Pearson, Battle Cry of Freedom. Fantastic book. If you guys want a 1-volume history of the Civil War, fantastic book. He really gets into some interesting. He gets into the antebellum period, then he gets into the Civil War, a little bit into Reconstruction as well. But it's fantastic. Eric Forner, he's another fantastic historian. He really gets into the Reconstruction period of the Civil War, if you will, the aftermath. But the fall of Mobile Bay played a huge factor in the Civil War for the simple fact, in 1864, it was an election year. Okay. And remember, I kind of talked about this in a previous episode. Remember the election of 1864 between President Lincoln and his former general, George McClellan. Now here, let's get into this real quick. It says, Hood woke up to the truth. Okay, we're going to get a little bit into the Battle of Atlanta. Again, this was significant. If Matthew's in here, he probably knows a little bit of the history of the Battle of Atlanta. General Hood was the Confederate general in charge of the Confederacy in defending Atlanta. He was supposed to let Atlanta fall, but William Tecumseh Sherman had other plans. It says Hood woke up to the truth a day too late. On August 30th, he sent 2 corps against the enemy at Jonesboro, 20 miles south of Atlanta. They found the Yankees too strong and were repulsed with heavy loss. The next day, Sherman counterattacked and mauled the rebels. To avoid being cut off and trapped, Hood evacuated Atlanta on September 1st after destroying everything of military value in it. The next day, the Bluecoats marched in with bands blaring Union songs and raised the American flag over City Hall. Sherman sent a jaunty wire to Washington. Atlanta is ours and fairly won. That's a famous line. The impact of the event cannot be exaggerated. Cannons boomed, 100-gun salutes in northern cities. Newspapers that bedeviled Sherman for years now praised him as the greatest general since Napoleon. That's okay. There's a little backstory. Northern newspapers just extricated Sherman in the papers. They thought he was crazy because in the beginning of the war, he said that they were going to have like 200,000 a 200,000-man army, and basically he was laughed out of the building. And guess what? It took more than that. It took more than that. Anyways, go ahead. What?
Oh, if you look at his portrait alone, you think the guy cares, man?
No, the dude was a freaking consummate man.
Give 2 shits.
In retrospect, the victory at Mobile Bay suddenly took on new importance as the first blow of a lethal 1-2 punch. Remember, Mobile Bay fell in late August. Atlanta fell to Union hands in the very beginning of September. That's the 1-2 punch. Sherman and Farragut, exulted Secretary of State Seward, have knocked the bottom out of the Chicago platform. The Chicago platform being the Democratic convention that was going to take place in Chicago, to elect, because the Democrats at that time were all about ending the war now because they thought it was over. We got to negotiate with the Confederacy.
Right.
Because there was no victories coming. Well, now we got victories coming. The Richmond Examiner reflected gloomily. Richmond Examiner, again being Richmond, Virginia.
powerhouse at the time.
Yes. That the disaster at Atlanta came in the very nick of time to save the party of Lincoln from irretrievable ruin. It obscures the prospect of peace. Late, so bright. Remember, they thought peace was coming. It will also diffuse gloom over the South. Gloom became a plentiful commodity indeed. Never until now did I feel hopeless, wrote a North Carolinian. But since God seems to have forsaken us, I despair. South Carolina diarist Mary Boykin Chestnut, that's a famous person, by the way. Her diary entries were read a lot during Ken Burns' Civil War series.
Yep.
So if that name sounds familiar, that's because of that. Because of Ken Burns.
Great series, guys. Check it out on Amazon Prime.
She saw doom approaching. Since Atlanta, I have felt as if we were dead, or it feels as if it felt as if all were dead within me. Forever, she wrote. We are going to be wiped off the earth. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So that just gives you an understanding of what was happening. What was the response to Mobile Bay and also Atlanta falling? Despair fell across the Confederacy. They knew that the noose was getting tighter around the Confederacy. You got to remember they had lost Vicksburg, or let's go this way. They lost New Orleans, Vicksburg, Chattanooga, Atlanta, then Mobile Bay. You closed. Remember, Mobile Bay was the last port that the Confederates could use to bring in supplies. So guess what? No supplies are coming into the into the South. You're done. You're gonna have to make means with what you have.
I think about it from a Southern perspective. You, up until about a whole year, just about a whole year there, you were invincible. You were winning the war.
You were.
You were crushing everything. And now
And how quickly it turned. How quickly it turned.
Man.
So again, the noose was tightening around the Confederacy. You're getting no more supplies. Mobile also was another place where they could have some industrial. They said one of the last places where you had some industrial. I'm talking about the actual city, not the bay.
Right.
Where they had some industrial capacity. It would be soon where that fell as well. So, yeah.
Mobile, Pensacola. Yep.
And of course, with the fall of Atlanta and the victory at Mobile Bay, it all but secured Lincoln's re-election, getting those victories late in the year, just before the election. So it was vital. So the Navy played a significant part. Rather, it wasn't the Blue Water Navy per se. It was more of using the Navy as a siege, of breaking a siege, not massive sea battles happening on the ocean. It was a little bit different in how the Navy was used for success against the Confederacy during the American Civil War. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, man. Wow, that was fun.
Pretty badass, isn't it?
Man!
That is some of the coolest part of history. I think, the early American Navy battles and the way they were utilized. I was telling Eric this yesterday, just last night. One of my other favorite admirals, other than Farragut, was old John Paul Jones. If you guys know about him, that's another guy led from the front. His ship was sinking, and he goes, I have not yet begun to fight.
I have not yet begun to fight.
You're crazy, man. And then he ended up, the ship that was telling him to surrender is the ship that he took over. Crazy bastards, man. But that was just a different time and age, I suppose. Could you imagine seeing an admiral do something like that today? No.
Oh, my gosh, I know.
Maybe World War II. They did some pretty heroic things in World War II. But...
Oh, boy, here we go. Now. Woo, boy, let's get into this.
We're going for it? We're doing it?
Oh, boy.
Let's step right into the mess. Here we go, guys. Strap on in.
Here we go. All right. Again, I hope you guys all enjoyed that little brief history. Yeah. Again, check out American Battlefield Trust. They wrote it out a lot better than what I probably could have. What's going on? I missed that. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Oh,
I smell what you're
shit.
stepping in.
Oh, shit.
If anyone has any questions, didn't Jones use the ship to fire on the British mainland?
Yes, he did. Yep, you sure as hell did. Crazy.
There you go.
And they actually even landed on them. They even had one little incursion that I don't know what they got out of it, but they did do a landing as well.
If
Just
you guys
for
want to
shock
learn,
value.
again, if you guys want to learn more about American Civil War, there's so many books out there. James McPherson is a fantastic book. Alan Gulzo, I always mess up his name. Gulzo. He has what's it called? Something lightning. Gosh, dang it, I can't remember. But it's a fantastic book as well. There's a lot of literature written on the Civil War.
Another good one too was Kent Masterson Brown. In fact, he's got a lecture series on YouTube. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's
He's got a deep voice like me. He'll put you to sleep. So if you're looking for something to, to help you fall asleep,
David Bright. He's another guy to follow. Look at him on YouTube. He's another fantastic Civil War historian. There's so many of them out there. But yeah, if you want to take a look, also like I said, check out American Battlefield Trust, either the website, the YouTube channel, and follow them on Twitter. You'll learn a lot from them. It's fantastic, and they do such a fantastic job.
And we don't get anything from this, but
no, not at all. I'm just
if you got $5 to donate, please do it. One of the things they just did recently, and they actually posted it on their YouTube channel, was they bought the remainder of a land from a battle site and they knocked down the building that was on it because they want to preserve just the battlefield itself. They don't want none. They want it uninterrupted. They want it to be what it was when the battle was actually happening.
That's what they do. Exactly.
Hey, right
Woo
on.
Riders, what's up, man? From Northeast Florida, man. Look at that. What's up? Hey, thanks for joining the channel. Much appreciated. Yeah, I value all the people who come, man. You know, I'm just a guy out here. Love talking about this type of stuff. And if you guys enjoy it, that's great. Appreciate it, man. Awesome. Right on. Okay, now we're going to get into some stuff that's going on now.
Yep.
Boy, what in the hell is going on?
Complete reversal.
Woo! Ukraine, I'm telling you, they got some balls, man. They ain't messing around. And to be honest with you, it's a smart move. Tactically, strategically, it seems like a smart move. Now, whether they can maintain this, and you guys will know what I'm getting at here shortly, whether they can maintain this is going to be a little bit different. Right. But I think that the momentum is on their side, and there's a reason why. All right, let's bring this up.
They gained a bunch more ground today, actually, too.
Yes, they did. Here we go.
There she blows.
This is the Ukraine in the light blue. The red line is the demarcation of the Russian border. All this area with the stripes, that is parts of Russia that has been invaded by the Ukrainian armed forces. They're taking large swaths of land in Russia. They are invading Russia, which is just, I didn't see that coming, to be honest with you. I did not see that coming. What does this mean? It can mean a few things. First and foremost, I think there's a reason why they invaded that part. Because guess what? The battle has been, hold on. Let me bring up some more maps. Hold on. Let me do that. Yeah. Let me do that first. I always love bringing up the maps.
Trump called, well, I mean.
Here we go. Let me zoom out.
Wrong in there. And
come on.
You're dying.
Yeah, I know. All right, here we go. Let me get out of this real quick. Bring up a map. It's not going to have the actual of where the front lines are.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of sucks, but whatever. You kind of get the gist of where I'm going here. All right, here's Ukraine. Over here in the eastern part of the Ukraine, right? Eastern, southern part, right? It's all occupied by the Russians. All this part right here. So, oh my gosh, hold on one second.
No, you're good, man. Alex, you and I literally just talked about this last night. Alex is, he's one of us.
Here we go. Think about this. In all those parts, remember last Last summer, Ukrainians were supposed to have a huge offensive in the eastern part and the southeastern part of the occupied territories. The Ukrainian armed forces couldn't get very far. Why couldn't they get very far? There's a reason why. And yes, that's part of it too. Alex, I'm good. I'm getting there.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
You're getting ahead of me, man.
I know, man. What the hell? We just talked about this.
But the reason why they couldn't is because the fortifications that the Russians put up. They had ditches and minefields, you name it. They had fortifications. So it wasn't going to be easy for the Ukrainian armed forces to be able to take large swaths of land and take it back. So they bogged down. They didn't get very deep.
Right.
Again, that was last summer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this summer, okay, well, we're getting late into the summer, but it's this summer. Now, we're up here. I think we're kind of right in this area, isn't it? God, I can't read these damn names.
It's all good, Alex.
I'm finding, where's that S word?
Oh,
I'm going to find it.
All right.
Hold on, there we go.
I'll let you do it.
Here we are. And this part right here. Matter of fact, where is...
That's Kursk.
Yeah, there's Kursk. Kharkiv. Up in this part of Ukraine, the Russians have been trying to come in to Ukraine from the north. They've had a little bit of success. They've occupied some territory over here.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of days ago, Ukrainian armed forces decided to come and invade Russia from this part of the border. At first, when I heard about it, guys, I was like, man, what the hell's going on here? At first, I thought, okay, maybe it's going to be a feint.
Right.
Hey, look at us over here. Woohoo! We're going to come over here and hit you from this side. That's what I thought. But the longer it progressed and the wider that the front became, because in the beginning, it was just a small little line coming up to this Sudza. I can't say, forgive me for the pronunciation, but it was just a small little incursion in here. That's what it was. A couple of days later, now it's incorporating. Gosh, I think it's all up in.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, it's all up in here. It's a whole big area. We'll get into it, but this is the area again. The focus, Kharkiv. We're right here. All right, now I can stop sharing that, and then we'll bring up that other map that I had on Twitter. Anyway, this is a good follow, guys. If you guys want to follow them, Institute for the Study of War. I would give them a follow. They're really good. So here, again, occupied territory. Now, the reason why you could go there. What's up, Jim? What isn't on that border? There isn't fortifications. There isn't a massive buildup of armed forces, Russian military. And they could go at basically the Ukrainians could go marching right in with very little resistance. You don't have to cross any fortifications. They're going to get bogged down. They just can fight, shoot and scoot. That's what they're doing, man. And they ain't messing around. They are not messing around. Reinforcements that are trying to get them, they're getting freaking destroyed by HIMARS. What's up, Red? So it is an amazing operation that the Ukrainians are undertaking. Again, you cannot do that, or the Ukrainians will not be able to do that on the eastern or southeastern front of the current battle of what's happening on the Russian-Ukrainian war. In this part, again, this part of the front, you could go in, no issues. Now, here's the deal. Getting to Alex's point. And matter of fact, I was talking to Will about this last night. Remember?
Yeah.
I was talking to you about this last night. Before I read it anywhere else, I was like, you know what this is going to be, right? All this is going to be is it's a huge land grab. It's a huge land grab. Now, the Ukrainians have leverage. What I mean by leverage is, hey, Russia, leave Ukraine. Leave the Ukraine. You leave the Ukraine, you can have your Russian territory back. So you're using it as a bargain chip. You want to take over our land? Okay, we'll take over part of your land. And tell me, how is that going to play out in the Russian circles when you see the Ukrainian army taking Russian land? I mean, it's bold. It's to an extent, maybe it's smart, maybe it's not, because we'll find out soon, because there could be some repercussions, and we could kind of go down that rabbit hole a little bit. But I think it's an amazing strategy to use if you want a bargaining chip when it comes time to negotiations. Now, remember what happened a couple of months ago. You had the president of Hungary, what's his name, Orban. Remember, he went to Kiev to talk to Zelensky about some type of peace arrangement. Putin has been talking about peace negotiations. Well, guess what? This is taking on a whole different type of smell, because at that time, Ukraine would have had to negotiate out of weakness. Because what are you going to negotiate with? What are you going to negotiate with? You have nothing. You have nothing where you can bargain with the Russians. Right. Nothing. Now, if they decide to go to the negotiating table, they got a trump card. It's going to be interesting. Now, how deep do the Ukrainians go? Do they go deeper? Do they broaden it?
That's just the thing. Maybe you just stretch out. You and I were talking about it last night. Maybe all you gotta do is just stretch the front, right? Just broaden the front. You don't have to push in, but maybe go outwards just a little bit. And if you stretch it out, do the Russians have any manpower to make an actual worthwhile, counterattack? I mean,
they can't, because where are you going to get these men from? They're all
exactly.
Are they going to vacate? Are they going to vacate?
The lack of response from the Russians right now is very telling. I don't think they have a response.
I don't think they do either, because the guys
this is it.
The reinforcements that are coming in are getting absolutely obliterated. The Ukrainians are having their way in this part of Russia. So it's going to be interesting. Hey, let's read a little bit of what the Institute, again, this report was as of 3 p.m. Eastern Standard on August 10th, which was today. So let's get a little bit into what they're saying. Is that it? Yeah, here we go. Ukraine, let's say, geolocated footage and Russian reporting from August 10th indicate that the Ukrainian forces largely maintain previously reported positions in Kursk Oblast. Basically, it's their state, right? And they have advanced slightly further than previously conferred positions.
They did.
A Kremlin-affiliated Russian mill blogger claimed that Ukrainian forces are operating in the forest area north of whatever this is. Russian mill bloggers claim that Ukrainian forces are also maintaining positions northwest of the Sudza near whatever. I can't even get into it. Okay. Basically, they're just giving you geographical locations of where the Ukrainian army is operating. Additional geolocated footage published on August 10th indicates that the Ukrainian forces previously held positions. Through this footage is likely not from the past.
I can pronounce it actually if you want me to.
Hey, you want to do it? Go for it. Geolocated footage published on August 9th indicates that forces maintain positions north of. Go for it.
Oh, which one?
Serdadikovo.
Yeah, there you go. I'll go with that one. Ruben Shania.
Well, good, nice. That was good. Additional geolocated footage published August 10th indicates that the Ukrainian forces maintain position. Okay, I'm not going to get into this. It's geopolitical stuff or geolocating stuff. But they did have something in here that I wanted to see.
No, not really. It's kind of a similar thing I sent you yesterday before you racked out.
Here we go. Is this the one I wanted? Nope, that's not what I wanted. Look at this. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I think
here we go. Let's get into this here. Ukraine's cross-border operation in Kursk Oblast threatens the Kremlin with a potential political crisis regarding casualties among Russian conscripts, whom the Kremlin has increasingly relied upon to defend the Russian state border with Ukraine. Remember, conscripts are not exactly
We're going to give you $8,000.
Well, they're not exactly a formidable force that you want to be using for any type of combat operations. Russian opposition and social media outlets began disseminating initial complaints from family members of Russian conscripts on August 10th about the involvement of Russian conscripts in the Russian border defense operations. Okay, this is a huge political thing because the public in Russia may start getting a little bit uneasy if certain it could play a role in their internal politics.
And they've already had experienced some uneasiness for the last going on a year and a half now, where the public's kind of fighting back. What are we doing here?
Well, here we go. Although these complaints are limited in number and have not resulted in a unified movement, the Kremlin has previously expressed grave concern over public responses to its illegal use of conscripts in combat operations.
Oh, like sending prisoners out there? Okay, cool.
The Kremlin previously faced notable societal backlash in the spring of 2022 for illegally committing Russian conscripts to the front lines in Ukraine and faced criticism for relying on conscripts to repel previous pro-Ukrainian border raids and respond to the Wagner Group mutiny in the summer of 2023. Russian President Vladimir Putin notably attempted to appease Russian conscripts' mothers by emphasizing on March 8, 2022, that Russia would not use conscripts in combat operations. Putin, however, continued to institute contradictory policies that further involved conscripts in the defense of the Russian-Ukrainian international border, likely in an effort to shuffle conventional combat forces previously on border guard duty so they could be deployed for operations in Ukraine. Putin notably signed a bill in December of 2023 allowing conscripts to serve in Russian Federal Security Service, the primary Russian service responsible for border security. The Kremlin may need to justify its controversial reliance on conscripts and border security operations to appease Russian society, as Putin has done so following controversies in 2022 and 2023. Russian State Duma deputy and former deputy commander of the Southern Military District, Lieutenant General Andrei Grulev, recently stated on Russian state television that conscripts' participation in combat operations is normal, given that Russia has previously used conscripts in the Soviet Union's Afghan and Russia's Chechen wars. Several Russian conscripts are confirmed to have been taken prisoner in Kursk Oblast. It's going to be interesting.
Let me help out with this one real quick. So first of all, the last guy in the title, he had Duma. That's Dome. That literally, so he's a big wig. White House level dude.
Yes, that's part of their political structure.
Now, as far as the conscripts goes, what's happening there is it's not unlike a lot of things around most of the other world. We're very different. We're an all volunteer military force, but these are young guys who are trying to serve. They're serving their term as for their country. And what's happening? The reason why he's having to appease their mothers, or Putin's having to appease the mothers, is because these kids are getting orders, hey, you're supposed to be a cook, or you're supposed to be this. And next thing you know, no, man, ain't no cook. They're going out there on the front line. You know, it's almost a blessing to, well, no, it's not almost. It is a blessing to be an American in our military, because I got my job that I wanted. I don't know about you, Eric, but I'm sure it's all glad I didn't get switched up and made a 11 Bravo infantry guy, because that would suck.
That would suck.
Just look at God, especially when I was in. That was the peak of all the bullshit.
Now, I haven't seen anything. There was a bunch of stuff flying on Twitter earlier, because a lot of that stuff, a lot of the movements and operations are happening at night. That's one thing that you got to remember. I think the forces that are involved for the Ukrainian side, they're veterans, man. They know what they're doing, and they're going up against conscripts who have no idea what the hell they're about to face.
Man, they're going up against some 17-year-old that's got his first rifle, man. He's scared as hell, missing mommy's potato soup or whatever the hell. Yep. And it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
It's going to be interesting. Now,
you know what?
Go ahead.
It's an interesting parallel to the last gasp of the Nazification of Germany. What happened when all the men were gone? They were using the Hitler Youth to defend the nation.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Now, what does Putin do? What does
I think
Putin
he's got
do?
to come to the floor, doesn't he?
What's
Because people are going to start speaking out louder and louder about this. And they have to be.
How do you stop this incursion? How do you force the
Right.
Ukrainians back across the border?
Right.
What do you think? Okay. I don't know. What do? Alex says redeployment will take time. Exactly. Redeployment. And guess what? You know who's going to be watching that redeployment? The Ukrainians. The Ukrainians will be watching redeployment. If they see frontline movement of Russian soldiers coming off the line, they're going to hit them. They're 100%. Remember, Ukrainians got a whole bunch of HIMARS and they got ATACMS, and they're going to hit them, dude. This could be really interesting in how this works.
Cryptic's got an interesting point there. What if they're just holding back? I mean, what if they're using, what if Russia is just, they want to use this as an excuse just to go in and go all balls to the wall, in other words? I mean, and then again, if they have the manpower and the bandwidth to do so.
It's going to be interesting. I don't know how this is going to work. Now,
there's a lot of obfuscation on both sides as far as total losses and whatnot. So you really don't know. We're kind of really in the fog when it comes to that. So which side actually has more strength or the other? I mean, we have an idea, I suppose.
Okay, so let's take a look at this as well. Remember,
right?
Ukraine is hitting the soft underbelly of where Russia doesn't have any fortifications, and the people who are guarding that area, there's no exactly. You're going to be going up against Ukrainians going to be able to take a lot of line. Where is Russia going to find quote unquote frontline units to be able to meet and repel these? I don't know. Do you think, is it possible? Does Putin resort to tactical nuclear weapons? Do you think he does that?
I was thinking about that last night.
Is it in play? No way, right? No way.
That'd be a nail in his coffin.
I think so too.
I mean, he would even have China. I mean, I would even think China would probably even come in like, all right, you know what, dude? Like, you messed up. We're gonna go help out these guys now.
I don't know, man. That's taking a very bold step.
You know, it's like.
But what I'm saying is, because I think Ukrainians are going to be able to widen this gap. They're going to take a lot more land. And how do you stop? How do you stop them? Unless, okay, does Putin just finally go, you know what? Okay, forget this. I'm done. I'm not talking about quitting. I'm done with the quote unquote special military operation. Let's go meet at the table.
Right.
Does the Ukrainian move force the hand of Putin to actually come to the negotiating table for a serious discussion about ending the war? Not this bullshit, if you didn't have the land, because if they try to go to the table without having Russian territory in their back pocket,
right,
you're not going to get. It's going nowhere.
Oh, it won't.
The war's going to continue.
You kidding me? No, yeah. They're gonna. Here's the other thing too. One of my fears is this. In a lot of way, Putin's already proven that he's just almost on the same level as a radical Islamist in the fact that he's got no problem targeting civilian structures.
No, he has no bones about attacking civilians.
So that's my fear, right? Like, okay, so is that his response? Because he has no manpower, but he's got plenty of missiles. He's got plenty of those still left. So does he start attacking? All right, Audie, have a good one, dude. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Audie, man. Have a good one, buddy.
Future astronaut, Audie.
Yeah, future astronaut. Niner Empire, hey, welcome. Because, Eric, did you see that the Wagner soldiers in Africa were being flown in? No, I haven't. Where did you see that? I'll find
Interesting. They just got their asses kicked.
You know what's interesting? Remember what happened? Remember? Wagner helped the Russian army get out of the pickle. Remember Bakhmut?
Yep.
The Battle of Bakhmut? That was all because of Wagner. And Wagner suffered huge. But then they began their march on Moscow. Remember that? Remember they began their march on Moscow? And then next thing you know, Prigozhin dies in a plane accident. I wonder how that happened. But No, I did not see that Niner Empire. Yeah, if you have a source, let me know. You can't put the link in the chat, unfortunately, but if you just type where you heard it, and I'll just Google search for it.
Yeah, see, that's what I read yesterday too, Alex. Like I was telling Eric last night, the reports that I got was that Russia is saying they're on the flip side. They're actually the ones on the offensive, according to themselves and their own sources.
And yes, that is correct. Russians are still advancing on the eastern very slowly. Yeah, Chasiv Yar, that's a big part. They've been outside Chasiv Yar for like a couple of months. Mm-hmm. Because Chasiv Yar actually sits on the high ground, so the Ukrainians have a bit of tactical advantage. So it's been a bloodbath at Chasiv Yar. Absolutely. But they can't take it. They're trying. Maybe they eventually do it, with just the constant meat waves. But yeah, the Russians have been trying to take that part of territory for a long time.
That damn air conditioner always gets me, man.
Yeah, I don't even hear
when it flips on, it goes, and then when it flips off, it does the same thing again. It's like,
what the hell is that?
What's going on?
Steam locomotive in there?
It's like a commercial. Well, it's Arizona, so it's like a big old commercial unit.
Oh, okay.
I can't complain
but
though. It keeps it
again.
Nice and cool,
I don't know. I don't know what the ramifications is going to be with that Ukrainian incursion into Russia. More to see. We'll see. I think you're going to see more and more of it. You're going to see continuing news flying out of Russia. Again, remember, this is Russian territory being taken, not Ukrainian. So it's a little bit different.
Has there been any word out of Chechnya or any of those other?
I haven't heard nothing.
I haven't heard anything either. And then, like I was telling you yesterday, okay, does this? And the reason why I say this is because I saw the Georgian flag in one of those pictures. Like, okay, does it instill a little bit in these guys to do their thing? Maybe open up their own front as well, right there on the border of Dagestan.
I don't know. Bogs are good point. A lot of Russian land is unoccupied forest and open land. Could Putin be taking a page out of the history book, letting Ukraine get further away from their own resources? So you're saying taking their, letting them stretch out their lines of communication, and then you can hammer. I don't know. I don't foresee Ukraine going that deep, because here's the thing. One thing that the Ukrainians have is as they're taking ground, they're also bringing air defense, and they're also bringing in their HIMARS.
Do we have a map of any roads or any rail in that area?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
That'd be a little bit interesting to see.
You know what? Hold on. Here we go.
I smell what Bog's stepping in. I dig it, man.
Come on.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Traffic. Okay, hold on.
Kursk is definitely heavily wooded area. That's for sure.
But here's the deal. Okay, I don't think they're gonna. This isn't gonna be Napoleon trying to march on Moscow.
Right.
It's not gonna be what or the same thing with the Germans as well. They're not gonna march to the gates of Moscow. I don't think their intention. I think their intention is to take a large swath of Russian land to be used as a negotiating tool. That's what I think.
Right, but in order to even sustain that, I'm smelling when Bog's stepping in.
Hey, additionally, don't forget, Ukrainians are continually hammering Russian Air Force bases. They are hammering them.
Right.
Hammering them. So, look, this isn't just, even though they're taking large swath of land, they're also putting a punishment on the Russian Air Force. There's no doubt about it. Sure. It is something that.
Actually, it's gone to the point to go on what Air Force. They've pretty much only ever used missiles right now for their strikes. They don't have anything to get over there.
That's a great.
What's the end game, Steve-O?
Yes,
dude. But you tell me, man, because E and I have been lost on that for a while now, man. It's
I'm spitballing. As far as the end game is concerned, I think they understand that. Depending on what happens on this presidential election, they're either going to be forced to negotiate a peace, or they're going to be able to continue their fight.
Right.
One or the other.
Right.
So I think they're just being proactive, saying, okay, if you're going to force us, if you're going to force us to be in negotiations, then, I'm going to get me some leverage here. Oh, it is. Yeah. The oil industry is getting hammered, hammered. I only watch news once a month. Other than that,
Steve, that's probably the way to go, man.
To be honest with you, you probably got less stress in your life, to be honest with you. All right, Alex, hey, man, thanks for showing up, man. I appreciate it.
Alex, take care, dude. Good seeing you, man. Hope you come back.
We'll see you on the next one. So, yeah, that's the end game. I think that as far as the end game, I think that they're being told you're going to be forced to negotiate whatever it may be. And they're just taking matters in their own hands. So if they have to negotiate, they have some bargaining chips to use. Maybe. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with that. Does this force Putin to come to the table? I don't know. I mean, when you're talking about Russian, you know how he's a big ultra nationalist.
Dude,
he's a big ultra nationalist. So that is a hit to their pride. That is a hit to their prestige. Oh, it does, 100%, dude. You know how? Look, that's something that has been in the Russian blood for centuries. It's all about the prestige. It's all about, I want to be looked upon as a force in the world. So if you go and you start taking Russian land, that is a huge blow to their psyche and to their prestige. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think this is gonna have reverberating effects upon the Russian, not the certain too, but the political leaders in Russia.
The people have already pretty much said they're done with this whole thing for the most part.
Ooh, what is that? Me and 9 others got jobs terminated for airplanes falling out of skies.
Oh shit, dude! Boeing.
You work for Boeing or worked for Boeing? I don't know. If you could, I mean, it's up to you if you want to elaborate. I'm not.
Yeah, man. You got our backing for sure, man.
But yeah, holy crap! I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happens with this, but I find it. I mean, that's kind of like the big news as far as military stuff is concerned.
The Middle East. I could just imagine Putin waking up in the morning and go, "Oh, here's another shot of vodka. What am I going to do today?"
Hey, Boggs, careful with is there money being sent there? Absolutely. But what is it? Look, it's more about value. And what I mean by value, we are sending.
Oh, okay.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, wish you luck, homie.
United States have sent billions of dollars worth of equipment and material. Okay. That's what has been sent to Ukraine. Has there been cash? I'm sure there's a little bit of cash, but come on. Majority of it is military supplies. That is what is going on. Same thing with the European countries. Yes, are they sending some money? Absolutely. Okay, that's what you meant. It's all about material. Now, where I have an issue with is the United States needs to start acting like we're in a wartime economy. In other words, producing the means to fight war. Because if you don't, quote unquote, replenish what you've already sent or build more, the United States are going to be up against it. Make no bones about it. We got to start manufacturing military hardware. Period.
Speaking of military hardware, Steve-O, I'm not going to preach to you or nothing, but actually the Department of Defense hires a lot of civilians who are in that industry of aviation for instructor stuff and you name it, man, like subject matter experts. So there might be a field to look at while you're contemplating options. Pays good too, man. Especially those general dynamic technicians, man. It has paid. This one guy he come out to work on my equipment, and he goes, "I get paid $66 an hour to be here." And I was like, "What in the hell? Can you fix it already?" Anyways, something to think about, Steve-O. Wish you the best.
Absolutely.
Wish you the best.
Gonna be interesting.
Solar powered tanks. Whoa. Oh man. That'll be the day.
I took 7 and got 300. Oh, wow.
Hell yeah, man. Go on a
Nice.
That's what I'm talking about. Live
Right
it
on,
up
man.
for a little bit. Yeah. Screw it, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to damn Cancun, my friend. That's cool, man. Right on. Glad
Real
you're okay, my
quick,
friend.
I want to talk on this because we'll
Yeah.
wrap it up here shortly. So yeah, we're going to have a good time. Middle East still waiting. Don't know what's going to happen.
Stand by.
Yep. I'll have a show. If anything starts kicking off in the Middle East, I'll definitely come on for that. So that's another area to keep an eye on. It's interesting. Don't know if it's just the calm before the storm. I don't know. Well, it's really not a calm because the IDF has been taking care of business in Lebanon. Airstrikes. They are doing surgical strikes all over the place. Oh, look at this. Bogzer. My grandparents fled Russia for China back in the 20s, then to America in the 40s when China and Japan were having their... Boy, that sounds like a awesome story, to be honest with you. Granted, it may have not been awesome for your grandparents, but that must be a fascinating story. You got your grandparents who fled China or who fled Russia in the 20s. Again, that was in the heyday of when the communists came to power, because you had the revolution, right? They must have fled to China again, maybe because they didn't maybe agree with that. I don't know. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. And then
Japan invades.
When Japan invades China, you want to get out of China because you don't know what's going to happen there. You come to America. That's incredible. Must be a hell of a story. I would love to hear that one of these days, Bogzer, if you get a chance. That'd be awesome.
That's the one thing I know about the Japanese and their invasion of China, man. Like, if you were Chinese if you weren't Japanese, you were lower than well shit. And yeah. Anyways.
All right, guys, I gotta show this. It came across my.
Glad you made it through that old stuff, Bogzer. That's cool, man.
Yeah, his grandparents. Otherwise, who knows? Bogzer may not even be here
man.
If they didn't partake in those trials and tribulations. Incredible. Okay, this came across my Twitter feed today. Ooh, boy, oh boy, this is gonna be awesome.
I already know what this is.
Awesome. This is footage taken from F-22s. Yes. Take a listen. It's pretty cool.
That's Alaska, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
Music sound familiar?
Last Mohegans. The Gale.
Beautiful. Look at this. Is that something? Is that something or what, man? Oh my gosh, man. Hey, right on, man. Right on. You matter of fact, that's something. By the way, stay in the green room, Will, because we got to talk about some.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I will be at the Giants game in September here in Arizona. So,
what I'm thinking of, I was looking at the Giants schedule. Not next weekend, but the weekend after Miami. Do that, maybe that Miami. I think it's August 18th.
Mm-hmm.
It's an afternoon game at Oracle Park. I could catch the game and then probably get home in time so I could do the show. Because I got to get back to Galt to be able to do the post game. So that is what I'm thinking.
Hang out with Glenn, my friend. I told him to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. Yeah.
I told him to take you where to go to the Iron Skillet there on 3rd and King. Yeah, man. You guys have a good time.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. That's what I'm thinking. I can meet up Robbie DeVille and then whoever else. I was going to make that announcement. I think I talked a little bit about it tonight, but yeah, I want to try to come down there for that Miami series.
I got a little bit of an announcement. That's what I want.
All right, cool.
So, my first episode of my brand new channel will be coming out here pretty shortly. We're going to go over some of the stories in this book Oh man, it's reversed. What in the
No,
hell?
you're good. No, it's not reversed. You're good.
Oh, it ain't tribal
Bigfoot.
We're going to talk a little bit about some of these stories here. We're talking about the hairy men of the 17 and 1800s, specifically one of the stories of Davy Crockett and Mr. Bowie.
Oh,
They
interesting.
both have some, and the finale will be Teddy Roosevelt's story of encountering the big hairy giant.
Interesting.
So whether or not you believe it or not, they're still pretty cool stories.
I'm guessing, is that when he was in the Dakota Territory?
Yeah.
Okay. What's up, Shardall? What is your channel? Do you have a channel name? Is it up yet or not yet?
Not yet. I'm going to upload it to my Will Be channel, and I'm going to change all the name and all that stuff.
Okay, cool. Just
Yeah,
let me know when it's going there, and I'll make sure we promote that.
Hey, man, I'll join you, Cryptic. You and I could we could be some shit talkers.
I'm gonna do a channel just bashing everyone and talking crap. Nice. Niner says, I saw a video saying Iran will probably retaliate on Monday. It's the anniversary of the destruction of Solomon's temple and the second temple. It's always
actually,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Niner, talking about the symbology.
Actually, I do have the channel name. It's Stay a While and Listen. And if anybody out there knows what that reference is, kudos to you.
Stay a while and listen.
Stay a while and listen.
Sounds like a coast to coast thing to me.
No.
Kind of reminds me of a coast to coast thing.
It's off a video game.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Can Shardell get the link to ask your top? Oh my God. Hi. Look, we're getting ready. We're getting ready to close this down. I am not up to doing any top 5 stuff. You know what? I'll bring you in for a few minutes, Shardell.
All right, come on, Shardell. You haven't been on in a while, so we can make it happen.
There we go. Let's try this. We'll see how this works. We'll see how this works out. God, I love that F-22 footage. Yeah, I think that was definitely Alaska because they're
Alaska. Yeah,
they are. They have a unit up there at Elmendorf. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you, Shardall?
Shardall, you got approximately 60 seconds, homie.
Come on, Shardall.
You don't gotta do your hair or nothing. Just turn the damn camera on.
Man, this was a good episode. I enjoyed it. You know how me, man.
Oh man, I always love talking about this kind of stuff, man.
I know.
And the
thing is you could go off so many different ways, man. Because I want to.
We did for a little bit. Vicksburg and Britain
and France. Yep.
Shardall.
Come on, Shardall, dude. Where are you, man?
60 seconds starting now. You got till.
Let me guess. You're in an Uber.
Don't be in a fucking Uber. Pardon the French, boys. Sorry about that.
It's all good. While we wait, guys, again, I appreciate all the support. You guys are awesome. Couldn't do it without you. Same thing.
A lot of new. We had a lot of new people in the chat today. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was good. Loved seeing.
I'm also jealous of Romo's. Oh God damn it, Jim! Come on, man, Jim. Sometimes you just gotta hold back, homie. Sometimes you just gotta rein her on in just a little bit. Oh my Lord. Oh shit. But anyways, I was gonna say I'm jealous of this man in front. This man over here, he's in his 50s and he's got better hair color than me.
Look at that, huh?
Look at my shit, dude. I'm salt and pepper. I'm a distinguished gentleman. Oh shit! Look at even
that. Distinguished gentleman. There you go.
Gentleman in quotes, right? Shit. God. I'm kind of a dick.
Oh my gosh.
If you guys know me in person, I'm a happy little dickhead. Don't worry, it's all good. Yeah, Cryptic. Yeah, Jim, that was a little heavy, bro. You went full samurai like I do. You went full samurai.
Full samurai.
You went full samurai, homie.
All right, since he's not coming in, I'm not going to.
All right, guys. Yeah, let's get out of here.
Hey, guys. Appreciate the support. Again, the next time I'm probably going to go live is if anything breaks out in the Middle East, or if something gets a little bit weird in the Russian-Ukrainian. Oh, Venezuela, kind of really not hearing much anything about that. It's kind
That went by the wayside, I guess.
Maduro's wanting to go arrest everybody, but there's a lot of countries saying he's not the rightfully elected president of Venezuela. So there may be something coming down the pike with that. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. All right, guys. Again, thanks for joining. We'll see you on the next one. Make sure you got your notification bell set on. If you like what you see, hit the like and subscribe, and then you'll be able to know when I go on next time. All right, guys. Until the next time, Will, thanks for joining. Make sure to hang out in the green room.
We'll do.
And we'll see you guys on the next one. Woo!
Deuces.